mean, honestly, the answer is obvious, right? Ethically, you can see, whether or not you're a lawyer, right? You can see what you would do and what you should do if you were a lawyer in this case. You just do the right thing, right? You zealously represent your client, yes, but you always tell the truth. If you do that as a Trump administration lawyer, you will get fired for it. And so now we're seeing people get fired for it, and their supervisors get fired too. And all the Justice Department lawyers who are seeing that pattern emerge are sitting there thinking, do I want to lie to a judge and therefore be exiled from the legal profession? Or do I want to not lie to a judge and get fired from the Trump administration? Those are my choices.
There are so many scandals every day in the Trump administration. It's difficult to keep up with them all, especially when they are as stupid and ridiculous as the one we are about to talk about. And that is J.D. Vance's trip to Greenland, which I guess we shouldn't just call stupid because it is also creating problems with our national security, which is what erupted out of a leaked email that shows just how incompetent this administration is and the danger that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump's threats against Greenland are putting us in. It is a shocking revelation of what people inside of our own military think of the vice president and the president. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, it goes a long way. And it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into this shocking leaked email, I first unfortunately want to hear J.D. Vance's thoughts on Greenland, because we need to debunk him.
I think Americans, by the way, don't fully realize how important this is to our own security. Yeah. So all of the missile defense that we have depends on having a presence in Greenland, because you think, God forbid, if somebody fires a missile at us, it's going to come over the Arctic. We need to have the visibility of what's going on there. And look, Denmark, which of course controls Greenland right now, they've really underinvested in the infrastructure and in the security of Greenland. The president, what he said, of course the media attacks it, but it's very common sense. It's, look, this matters to our security, this matters to our missile defense, and we're going to protect America's interests come hell or high water.
So first of all, it's so interesting to me that the people who claim that Ukraine doesn't matter and that investing in that ally that we've had for decades is somehow a mistake. But also, Greenland is so territorial, like territorially important in defending against Russia and China. Do you know what country is really close to Russia? Ukraine? Maybe that is a good strategic move to care about our ally there, instead of trying to buy up some territory. Which, by the way, Donald Trump is making a promise. He says if they do purchase or invade or take over Greenland, whatever it may be, that he's going to pay the citizens of that territory $10,000 a year of your tax dollars to keep them happy. That's how badly he wants this, just like this nonsensical move to happen. And there's so many other reasons why this doesn't make any sense. And Chris Coons got into him right here. So before we check out this leaked email, let's take a listen.
He said over the weekend, we'll get Greenland. Yeah, 100%. I'll never take military force off the table, but I think there's a good possibility we could do it without military force. Are you saying you don't think he means it? Are you saying
just insane. It's just insane. That's the problem, is that, you know, look, my Republican colleagues say, oh, no, you know, he's just negotiating. He just throws stuff out there. Mm-hmm. But he's the president. And he's threatening a NATO ally with military action. It's insane. It's unmoored. And we could spend all of our time huffing and puffing about how ridiculous it is. But look, your average Trump voter laughs at us and says he's owning the libs. Mm-hmm. And your average middle American says, why are you wasting your time worrying about Greenland? I can't even find it on a map. The challenge is that the Danes, our close NATO allies and partners, are angry, upset, and offended. So are the Canadians, the largest export and business partner for my home state and most home states. So it does have real consequences. Mm-hmm. He is threatening the NATO alliance. He's threatening our closest allies. It does have real world consequences. But we have to focus on the two issues that I said were the main issues for the Democratic Party and working Americans.
Everyone sees how absurd this is. It is a ridiculous idea that has only come about and is staying in the discourse because Donald Trump thinks it would look really cool if on a map Greenland was also part of the United States, because that's the only way he can understand these things. Right? Is like his little pictures and a map and territory. And I made the United States bigger like that. That is the toddler mind that he has. And it's very clear to everyone, including those in our military, that that's how Donald Trump and, of course, J.D. Vance think. And they got called out for that. And then it did not go too well. Space Force Colonel removed after disavowing J.D. Vance's comments about acquiring Greenland. A Space Force colonel was removed from her position as the commander of a space base in Greenland on Thursday after she disavowed Vice President J.D. Vance remarks about acquiring the Danish territory. Space Operations Command announced on Thursday evening that Colonel Susanna Myers had been relieved of her command just hours after it was revealed she had sent an email disavowing Vance following a visit by the Vice President to the space base. Colonel Susanna Myers, commander of the Pitafa Space Base, was removed from command by Colonel Kenneth Claw, commander of the space base, Delta 1, on April 10, 2025, for loss of confidence in her ability to lead announced Space Operations Command. Commanders are expected to adhere to the highest standards of conduct, especially as it relates to remaining nonpartisan and their performance of their duties. Colonel Sean Lee has assumed command mere hours before her removal. Military.com reported that Myers had distanced herself from Vance in an email to personnel at the space base. I spent the weekend thinking about Friday's visit by Vance, the actions taken, the words spoken, and how it must have affected each of you. Wrote Myers in an email. I do not presume to understand current politics, but what I do know is that the concerns of the U.S. administration discussed by Vice President Vance on Friday are not reflective of our space base. She concluded, I commit that. For as long as I am lucky enough to lead this base, all of our flags will fly proudly together. Mir sent out an email on March 31st, just days after Vance criticized Denmark and made clear that the Trump administration's interest in annexing the territory during a March 28th visit to the base. Our message to Denmark is very simple, said Vance during his visit. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you do. And you have underinvested in the security of this incredible, beautiful landmass. Even our own military officials find it ridiculous what J.D. Vance is trying to do, because of course they would. This is a nonsensical effort that we know is not leading to a strategic end, but is instead trying to satisfy the ego of Donald Trump. That is what this has always been about, and it's what we see more and more of every single day. People just trying to do their best to not do their jobs in government, but do what Donald Trump wants. Making arguments that they know are in bad faith, defending the most indefensible actions, statements, positions of this administration. And it's not just J.D. Vance, of course, it's throughout the administration. But Rachel Maddow did some great reporting on how Donald Trump's lawyers also understand the legal arguments they're trying to put forward. They're just wrong.
Headline. Is that really how you think this all works? Outraged judge repeatedly mocks DOJ lawyers, tears into them for being unprepared. Headline, judge in Alien Enemies Act case chides DOJ lawyer over refusal to answer key questions. Headline, judge snaps at Trump administration lawyers for gaslighting. And again, this is just an untenable situation these lawyers are being put in, right? You have to be truthful to a judge. You have to be truthful to the court as a lawyer who's standing there in front of the judge. But being truthful in this administration is seen as a betrayal of Donald Trump. So what are these lawyers supposed to do, right? You literally cannot lie to a judge and stay a lawyer. But telling the truth to a judge in so many of these cases, not only is it not going to win you the case, it helps prove the point that the administration is losing all of these cases because they keep doing things that are really blatantly illegal, right? And if you lose the case in court, or you lose that day's proceeding in court because you told the judge the truth, well, that's called firing in Donald Trump's Justice Department. So what are you supposed to do? I mean, honestly, the answer is obvious, right? Ethically, you can see, whether or not you're a lawyer, right? You can see what you would do and what you should do if you were a lawyer in this case. You just do the right thing, right? You zealously represent your client, yes, but you always tell the truth. If you do that as a Trump administration lawyer, you will get fired for it. And so now we're seeing people get fired for it. And their supervisors get fired too. And all the Justice Department lawyers who are seeing that pattern emerge are sitting there thinking, do I want to lie to a judge and therefore be exiled from the legal profession? Or do I want to not lie to a judge and get fired from the Trump administration? Those are my choices. What else can I do? And so they're all quitting. We are now seeing this untenable situation reach its natural mathematical conclusion in a pretty dramatic way. The Washington Post is now reporting that at least half of the frontline lawyers in the Solicitor General's office are either preparing to leave or have announced their departures already. What's the Solicitor General's office? That's the office that specifically argues cases for the administration in front of the Supreme Court. A majority of their lawyers have now quit or are quitting. Quote, many of the lawyers leaving the office are uncomfortable or turned off by directives from Justice Department leaders. Again, the reporting here is that at least half of the lawyers whose job it is to defend Donald Trump at the Supreme Court, a majority of the office that has that responsibility has now quit or is about to quit. That seems like a bad sign, right? Seems like a bad sign in terms of what this administration is up to.
Now, this reporting from Rachel Maddow obviously comes as we see the Supreme Court strike down the position of the Trump administration and demand that they return Abrabgo Garcia, who was wrongfully deported, back to the United States. Now, I don't know if I was surprised or not to see a 900 ruling from the Supreme Court, considering how obvious it was how they should be ruling. But this is not up for discussion. This is not up for debate. There is no way that the United States' position that it should be legal for us to say we unlawfully deported someone to a foreign prison and now we just made an oopsie so we don't have to give them back. That is an absurd position. And of course, I myself am not a lawyer, so I can't break it down as well. But you don't need a legal degree to know that that's ridiculous. But for a little bit more context on the case, I want to hear right here.
They plucked this man off the street. They deported him in violation of a court's order. They acknowledged they did it in error. They refused to lift a finger to bring him back. They taunted the judge, essentially, saying, it's your court order, let's see you enforce it. It was a mocking tone by the administration. They never offered to try to remedy their mistake. Now they're being told by the Supreme Court that they're going to have to remedy this. Will they pick up the phone, as we know the president could do, and call the president of El Salvador, with whom he is very close, and say, hey, we made a mistake, send this guy back? They're going to obviously be most concerned with what they're always concerned with, which is saving face. So that doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence, but if they ignore this instruction by the Supreme Court and the fault by the district court, then we are really in that uncharted territory we feared, where they're simply flouting even.
It is absurd that it even got this far. It is absurd that we had to have the Supreme Court rule on this. It is absurd that we have Carolyn Leavitt saying we are looking into seeing if we can deport American citizens. That's what she said. The press briefing. We're seeing if it's legal. Well, it's not. This is law breaking at the most extreme, and blatantly, too. And we have to call it out every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.